Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name is Alex, and I'm 33 years old. I'm here to share my story with you all. I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some advice from those who have been through something similar. I guess I'll start from the beginning, where it all seemed perfect. In 2015, I was an assistant professor at a small university, enjoying my career and my life. That's when I met Sarah. She was a new PhD student, and we quickly hit it off. She was smart, funny, and incredibly driven. We started dating, and before long, we were inseparable. Our relationship blossomed quickly. We shared dreams and plans for the future, talking about everything from career goals to how many kids we wanted. It felt like we were perfectly in sync. By 2018, we decided to get married. Our wedding was a beautiful celebration of our love and commitment. Surrounded by friends and family, we promised to support each other through thick and thin. It was one of the happiest days of my life. We settled into our married life comfortably, continuing to grow our careers and looking forward to starting a family. In 2019, we welcomed our beautiful baby girl, Emma, into the world. Parenthood brought new joys and responsibilities. I was over the moon. Watching Emma grow, her first steps, her first words, every moment was magical. Sarah and I felt complete. Our family was everything we had dreamed of. However, as any parent knows, raising a child isn't easy. There were sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and the constant worry if we were doing things right. Despite the challenges, Sarah and I supported each other. We were a team, and I felt our bond strengthen even more. Emma was our world, and we were determined to give her the best life possible. Fast forward to 2023. Sarah got a prestigious job offer in Mexico, a significant career advancement. She was ecstatic, and I was genuinely happy for her. Her hard work had paid off, and this was a huge opportunity. However, it also meant big changes for our family. After many discussions, we decided that I would put my academic career on hold to support her. It wasn't an easy decision, but I loved her and wanted to see her succeed. So we packed up our lives and moved to Mexico. I embraced my new role as a full-time caregiver for Emma. It was a big adjustment, but I cherished the time I got to spend with her. We explored our new surroundings, learned about the culture, and started to build a new life. Sarah's job kept her busy, but she seemed happy, and I was proud of her. Our new life in Mexico had its ups and downs. Sarah's job demanded a lot of her time, which sometimes left me feeling isolated. I missed my work, my colleagues, and the intellectual stimulation that came with my career. But I focused on Emma. Watching her grow and thrive was my main priority. I made sure she had a stable and loving environment. Sarah, on the other hand, was often preoccupied with work. She started working late hours and spending more time with her colleagues. At first, I didn't think much of it. I attributed her long hours to the demands of her new job. She was always very dedicated to her work, and this job was important to her. Over the past few months, I began to notice changes in Sarah's behavior. She became increasingly protective of her phone, often taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. She started working late more frequently and spent a lot of weekends attending work-related events or hanging out with friends from the office. It seemed like she was always busy, and our conversations became shorter and more superficial. I tried to brush off my growing suspicions. I told myself it was just the stress of her new job. But deep down, I felt uneasy. I tried talking to her about it, asking if everything was okay. She'd get defensive and accuse me of not supporting her career. Her reactions made me doubt myself. Maybe I was being too paranoid. Maybe she was right, and I just needed to give her space. But the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. I found myself checking the clock whenever she said she'd be home late, counting the hours until she returned. Our once happy home started to feel empty. Emma was my anchor, keeping me grounded, but even she sensed something was off. She'd ask why Mommy was always working, and I didn't have a good answer. My attempts to bridge the growing gap between us were met with resistance. When I'd suggest spending more time together as a family, Sarah would dismiss it, saying she was too tired or had too much work to do. The intimacy we once shared was fading. I felt like I was losing her, but I didn't know how to bring her back. There were nights I'd lie awake, replaying our conversations, trying to find a clue, an explanation for her behavior. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe that she was just overwhelmed with her new responsibilities. But the late nights, the secretive phone calls, and her emotional distance were hard to ignore. I tried to distract myself, focusing on Emma and finding new hobbies. I took up cooking, something I always enjoyed but never had the time for. I tried new recipes, hoping to bring some joy back into our home, but even our family dinners felt different. Sarah would often be distracted, checking her phone or responding to messages. It was like she was physically present but emotionally elsewhere. Last week, everything came crashing down. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Sarah was out, supposedly at a work meeting. Emma and I were playing in the living room when she asked to watch her favorite cartoon on her mom's phone. I hesitated but handed it over, thinking it would be harmless. Emma accidentally exited YouTube and stumbled upon Sarah's chat app. What I saw next shattered my world. Explicit chat screenshots with a coworker. My heart sank. I couldn't breathe. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, but I forced myself to stay calm for Emma's sake. I took her to her room, set her up with a toy, and went back to the phone. I didn't search further. What I had seen was enough to confirm my worst fears. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, was having an affair. I felt numb. I couldn't think straight. All the sacrifices I made, putting my career on hold, moving to a new country, all seemed like a cruel joke. The next few days were a blur. I grappled with intense emotions of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. I couldn't look at Sarah without feeling a wave of disgust and sadness. She noticed my distant behavior but didn't seem to care. Or maybe she was too wrapped up in her own world to notice. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed time to process what I had discovered. I kept replaying our life together in my mind, trying to pinpoint where things went wrong. I felt like a fool for not seeing the signs earlier. The late nights, the defensiveness, the emotional distance, it all made sense now. I wondered if there was something wrong with me, something that drove her to seek affection elsewhere. But deep down, I knew I wasn't to blame for her choices. In my darkest moments, I turned to prayer. I sought solace in my faith, hoping to find some guidance. I prayed for strength, for clarity, for the ability to forgive. I reflected on the nature of sin, forgiveness, and my own imperfections. It wasn't easy, but it gave me a sense of peace, however fleeting. I started attending church more regularly, seeking comfort in the community and the teachings. The pastor's sermons on forgiveness and resilience resonated with me. I found a small support group for people going through difficult times, and sharing my story with them helped. Hearing others' experiences and knowing I wasn't alone made a huge difference. Faith became my anchor. I'd spend evenings reading scripture, looking for answers, for strength. I knew that regardless of what happened with Sarah, I needed to be strong for Emma. She deserved a father who was present, loving, and stable. I couldn't let Sarah's betrayal destroy our family completely. I also turned to the internet, searching for stories and advice from others who had faced similar betrayals. I found a community of people who understood my pain. Reading their stories, seeing how they navigated their own challenges gave me hope. I wasn't alone in this. There were others who had walked this path and come out stronger on the other side. One particular story stood out to me. A man who had been through a similar situation shared how he confronted his wife, how they worked through the betrayal, and how they eventually rebuilt their relationship. It wasn't easy, and it took a lot of work, but it was possible. It gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, Sarah and I could find our way back to each other. But I also read stories of those who chose to walk away, who found peace and happiness on their own. It made me realize that staying wasn't the only option. I needed to do what was best for Emma and me, whether that meant rebuilding our marriage or moving on. Now I'm at a crossroads. I know I need to confront Sarah and address the betrayal. I've rehearsed the conversation in my head 1,000 times, but I'm still terrified. I don't know how she'll react or what she'll say. But I can't keep living in limbo. I need answers, and I need to make decisions for my future and Emma's. I've considered the impact this will have on our daughter. She is still young, but she's perceptive. She knows something is wrong, even if she doesn't understand what. I want to protect her from the pain of our broken relationship, but I also know she deserves to grow up in a home where love and trust are present. I've also been thinking about my own needs. I miss my academic career, the sense of fulfillment it gave me. I'm considering returning to work, whether in Mexico or back home. I need to find a balance between being there for Emma and pursuing my own dreams. Regardless of the outcome with Sarah, I am focused on healing and building a stable, loving environment for Emma. I've started looking into therapy for both of us to help navigate the emotional challenges ahead. I want to ensure that she grows up feeling loved and secure, despite the turmoil in our lives. I've also started setting small goals for myself. Simple things, like taking Emma to the park more often, trying new recipes, and reconnecting with old friends. Each small step feels like a victory, a move towards reclaiming my life. This journey has been one of resilience and self-discovery. I've learned a lot about myself, about strength, and about the importance of support. As I move forward, I'm committed to being a devoted father and finding peace and fulfillment, whether within or outside the marriage. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, know that you are not alone. It's a difficult path, but you can get through this. Take it one day at a time, seek support, and remember that you deserve happiness and peace. Thanks for reading. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Stay strong, everyone. Hey everyone, it's Alex again. Thanks for all the support and advice after my first post. It really meant a lot to me. As promised, here's the next part of my story. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, but I've made some progress, and I'm hoping sharing this will help others in similar situations. After days of rehearsing what I would say, I finally mustered up the courage to confront Sarah. It was a Saturday evening, and Emma was at a sleepover with a friend. I thought it would be best to have this conversation without her around. Sarah came home from one of her work meetings, looking tired. I waited until she had settled in before I approached her. My heart was pounding, but I knew I couldn't keep living in uncertainty. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me, a mixture of curiosity and concern on her face. "What is it, Alex?" I took a deep breath. "I know about the affair." Her face went pale and she opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I continued, "I saw the messages on your phone. I know you've been seeing someone else." There was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I never meant for it to go this far." I felt a surge of anger and hurt. "Why, Sarah? Why would you do this to us, to Emma?" She started crying, and through her tears, she told me about the stress of her job, the loneliness she felt, and how she found comfort in a coworker. She said it was never about me, that she still loved me, but she felt lost and didn't know how to cope. Hearing her side didn't make the pain go away, but it gave me some clarity. We talked for hours, airing out all the pent-up emotions and grievances. It was exhausting and heartbreaking, but it was necessary. By the end of the conversation, I was drained, but I felt a small sense of relief. At least now, everything was out in the open. The next few days were tough. Sarah and I agreed to take some time apart to figure out what we wanted. She moved into a friend's place, giving me and Emma space. It was strange not having her around, but it also gave me a chance to think clearly. I spent a lot of time reflecting on our marriage, the good times and the bad. I talked to my therapist, Dr. Morgan, who helped me process my emotions and consider my options. I also leaned on my support group at church and my friends, who were incredibly supportive. One thing was clear: Emma's well-being was my top priority. I needed to create a stable environment for her, whether Sarah and I stayed together or not. I also needed to think about my own happiness and what was best for me. After a few weeks, Sarah and I started having mediated sessions with a marriage counselor. We wanted to see if there was a way to rebuild our relationship. These sessions were intense. We both had to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our marriage. Sarah was genuinely remorseful and committed to making things right. She cut off all contact with the coworker and focused on repairing the damage done. We started communicating more openly, sharing our fears, hopes, and regrets. Rebuilding trust wasn't easy. There were days when I felt like giving up, when the pain of betrayal seemed too much to bear. But there were also moments of hope when I saw glimpses of the love we once shared. One night, after a particularly emotional session, we sat together on the couch holding hands. It was the first time in a long time that I felt a connection with her. "I want to make this work," I said softly. "For us, for Emma. But it's going to take time." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know, Alex. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." While working on our marriage, I also focused on my personal healing. I continued my therapy sessions, which were invaluable in helping me navigate my emotions. I also kept up with my journaling, documenting my progress and setbacks. Emma and I developed a routine that brought us closer. We'd go on weekend adventures, exploring the local parks and museums. I taught her how to cook simple meals, and we'd spend evenings baking cookies and talking about her day. These moments with her were my anchor, reminding me of the joy and love that still existed in my life. I also reconnected with my academic work. I started working on a research project remotely, collaborating with colleagues back home. It felt good to use my skills and knowledge again to contribute to something meaningful. It also gave me a sense of identity, outside of being a husband and father. Months passed and Sarah and I continued our counseling sessions. We made progress, but there were still challenges. Trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. It required patience, effort, and a lot of honest conversations. We decided to attend a marriage retreat, hoping it would help us reconnect on a deeper level. The retreat was a turning point. Surrounded by other couples who were also working through their issues, we found strength in shared experiences. We learned new communication techniques and ways to support each other. One exercise involved writing letters to each other, expressing our feelings and hopes for the future. Reading Sarah's letter brought me to tears. She wrote about her regrets, her love for me, and her commitment to rebuilding our family. My letter to her was about forgiveness, healing, and my desire to move forward together. The retreat helped us see that while the road ahead was still challenging, it was also filled with possibilities. We left with a renewed sense of purpose and a plan to continue working on our relationship. After a year of separation therapy and hard work, Sarah and I decided to give our marriage another chance. We moved back in together, taking things one day at a time. It wasn't perfect, but we were committed to making it work. We established new boundaries and routines to ensure we didn't fall back into old patterns. We made time for regular date nights, family activities, and individual self-care. Transparency became a cornerstone of our relationship. Sarah was open about her whereabouts and work commitments, and I made sure to communicate my needs and concerns. We also continued our therapy sessions, both individually and as a couple. They provided a safe space to discuss our progress and address any issues that arose. Our therapist helped us navigate the complexities of rebuilding trust and intimacy. Today, I can say that we're in a much better place. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's stronger than it was before. We've learned to appreciate each other more and not take our relationship for granted. The journey hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it. Emma is thriving, and seeing her happy and secure reassures me that we made the right decision. She knows that her parents love her and are committed to giving her a loving home. As for my academic career, I'm back to working part-time and exploring new opportunities. Balancing work and family is still a challenge, but I'm finding my rhythm. If you're going through something similar, know that there's no right or wrong way to handle it. Every relationship is different, and what works for one couple might not work for another. The important thing is to take care of yourself and make decisions that are best for your well-being and that of your family. Thank you for following my journey and for all the support. It's been a tough road, but I'm grateful for the lessons learned and the growth experienced. Remember, healing is a process, and it's okay to seek help and take things one step at a time. Stay strong, everyone. We're all in this together. As I look to the future, I'm filled with hope. Our marriage has been tested, but we've come out the other side stronger and more connected. There will always be challenges, but I'm confident that we can face them together. To anyone reading this who might be struggling, please know that you're not alone. Whether you choose to rebuild or move on, there's a path to healing and happiness. Trust yourself, seek support, and believe that better days are ahead. Thanks for being a part of my story. I'll continue to update you as our journey unfolds. Take care and stay hopeful. That's the end of my story for now. If you have any questions or need advice, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help and support anyone going through similar struggles. But I have a college friend that have more crazy story. Listen to him. This will be long as it happened a few years ago. And I just finally felt like sharing it after reading many stories and experiences here. It's my hope my story will help someone else survive cheating. I was married nearly 20 years to my ex-wife. I was a professional firefighter before we met. I began my career when I graduated high school at 17 and enrolled in fire academy with a parent waiver. am a fourth-generation fireman, and throughout our marriage, working my way as high as battalion chief before requesting demotion back to rescue captain of my department's rescue squad, since that was where all my certifications, etc. were in. Once Christmas Eve, we received a call for a structure fire at an apartment building. When we got on scene, there was 18 residents unaccounted for. We began rescue ops, and in one unit I found a young husband and wife, got them out, and as a tender changed my air bottle, the young woman sitting with medics began screaming, "My baby, my baby." I ran up to her and asked her, "Ma'am, what kind of baby am I looking for, dog, cat, human, or what?" All she said was, "My baby," over and over, so I ran back in. A short time later, I emerged with an infant. As I made my way out, something inside the building blew, sending debris everywhere. I was hit in the back by a piece of wood like a giant splinter. I somehow still made it to the triage area, handed off the baby, and collapsed. That was when the splinter was found sticking out of me. I was helicoptered to a trauma center. While on the way, I passed away twice and revived. I was taken in for emergency surgery. The splinter had nicked my heart and I was dying. My wife was called by my crew and told of what happened, and she told my crew that she was not coming. She had better things to do than to worry about my ploy for her attention and how I was using my job to try and get into her panties. I was in the hospital for 30 days, as they would not release me until they were sure I was healed enough to return home in a very rural area, about 60 miles from where I worked, and a real hospital. When I was released, I tried to get my wife to pick me up. She told me she didn't have time to make that drive. I had to beg for a ride home, and when I finally found one through one of my crewmates, he accompanied me into my house, making sure I was okay and not alone. We walked through my home looking for my wife since her minivan was in the driveway. When I opened our bedroom door, I collapsed to my knees as my crewman came up behind me and shouted, "WTF are you doing?" We opened my bedroom door to find my wife in bed. She had a man under her in her kitty, another behind her in her butt, and a third in her mouth. At first, the thing that hit me most was the one in her butt and mouth. Things she never did with me, and that I had never tried at all, claiming I was too big and would gag her or hurt her. My friend helped me up. He took me out, then went in and gathered me some clothes to take. He took me to another friend's home where we explained what had transpired. Later on, the friend with me when I caught her told me when he went in to get things for me, the ex and her boy toys never stopped what they were doing, and he took cell phone video without them noticing. A few days later, my friends helped me find a lawyer and started the divorce process. Luckily, our kids were already adults now, so we didn't have that battle in divorce to put our kids through. Because in court, I learned that everyone won in our friends group was getting some of my wife, except me. She openly admitted to doing every man in town to the judge, and how I was nothing but a paycheck, and how she always hoped I'd die in the line of duty, and she'd get that $1 million life insurance we had if I was killed on the job. When we met, and throughout life, she was always sweet and nave. She was a little slow in many things, but when her mom lost everything and moved in with us for a while, that's when my wife began to change. Her mom didn't live in the same house the entire time, as we bought a small building and turned it into a little cottage on the back end of our property so we could have privacy. Once I moved her mom out back is when I noticed the changes in her. It was hard for me to notice red flags, etc., as I was the only one working, and I would work 48 on and 24 off. The normal is 24 on 48 off. But because she refused to work, I had to work double, and even at times a second job, to support 5 of us by myself. Wife, 2 kids, Mill, and myself. When I caught my wife cheating, it felt like my entire world had come crashing down. We ended up selling our home and dividing all our mutual property. Everything was split down the middle, sold and shared. My crew at the fire department really came through for me during this incredibly tough time. They were always there whenever I needed help, whether it was with physical tasks or just to lend an ear when I needed someone to talk to. Most of these men and women on my crew lived in the city where we worked, so they had to drive at least an hour each way to support me. Their dedication and friendship meant the world to me. I was determined to get my career back on track. I worked tirelessly to regain my duty status because I had a goal of hitting 35 years of service before retiring. I wanted to retire on my own terms, having completed a full and satisfying career. When it came time for my physical exam to return to duty, I passed with flying colors. However, I was soon called into the chief's office. The chief gave me two choices: either retire now at 30 years and keep my full pension and benefits, or be medically retired and receive only half. I was shocked and stuttered, but I passed my return to duty tests. The chief responded, "Captain, you are one of the best fire rescue specialists I've ever known. However, your age, injury history, and recent diagnosis of PTSD and bipolar disorder mean the insurance company will no longer cover you due to the high risk. So, what's your decision?" Heartbroken and feeling utterly defeated, I chose to retire. It felt like the end of everything I had worked so hard for. When my now ex-wife found out about my forced retirement, she began tormenting me, seemingly trying to drive me to Sui on side. She was relentless in her cruelty, and it was clear she wanted to see me suffer. But instead of letting her win, I made the decision to leave the area entirely. I started working in animal rescue to pass the time and to find some sense of purpose. It was the lowest point of my life. I was living in an RV trailer, running an animal rescue, and no one would give me a job. Although I didn't need to work for financial reasons, I needed something to occupy my time and mind. The days felt endless and empty. I swore off women, except for my sister firefighter, and I didn't socialize or date for a long time. I couldn't imagine ever being in a relationship again. I didn't know if I could ever trust anyone after what I had been through. Then, something unexpected happened. I started playing one of those MMORPG games. It was a way to escape and to pass the time. Through the game, I met a woman. We began chatting regularly, eventually exchanged numbers, and after 18 months of virtual friendship, she decided she wanted to meet me in person. She reassured me, saying, "No way you're a perv or anything, because no one is going to invest this long to pick a target." This made me laugh harder than I had in a long time. I'll be honest, I was reluctant at first because we had a 20-year age gap, plus we were different races. Where I live, interracial relationships are still frowned upon. Yes, it's Redneckville, USA, and in many ways, it's like the Stone Age here. But despite my reservations, I agreed to meet her. It turned out to be the best decision of my life. She was everything I could dream of and more. She was old-fashioned like me, believing that a woman's #1 job was her spouse and family, not money and a career. While I have no problem with a working woman, I do believe that family should always come before career or anything else, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. Ironically, I lost my dad to the Vietnam War, and now here I am, married to a Vietnamese woman. We were expecting our first child in November of 2021. It was a full-circle moment that I never saw coming. Cheating is horrible, and maybe the worst thing we can go through, but please remember, it is not the end of the world. Not all men or women are the same as your cheating spouse. The keys are to make time for yourself, get help, and find yourself again. Take your time and remember that something better is out there looking for you too. Sui on side is never an answer. Giving up should not be an option. You are strong. You can do it. A life can be rebuilt and become newer and better. It may not happen overnight, and it may require more strength than you ever thought you had, but it is possible. The pain of betrayal and the heartbreak of loss can transform into something new and beautiful. Remember, life and love will always find a way. Even in the darkest times, there is hope. You just have to keep moving forward, one step at a time, and trust that better days are ahead. Keep your head up and never lose sight of your worth. Life has a way of surprising us, sometimes when we least expect it. In the early days after my retirement and the divorce, I felt like I was drifting without a purpose. The animal rescue work was fulfilling but didn't quite fill the void left by my previous life and career. My crew continued to check in on me, their loyalty unwavering. They knew the transition was tough, and they did everything they could to lift my spirits. Despite their efforts, there were many nights where I found myself staring at the ceiling of my RV, wondering if I'd ever find a sense of normalcy again. It was during one of these sleepless nights that I stumbled upon the MMORPG game. Initially, it was just a distraction, something to fill the hours. I didn't expect to form any meaningful connections. Yet, as I immersed myself in the game, I found a community of people who, like me, were looking for an escape. It was in this virtual world that I met her. Our conversation started off casually, talking about quests and game strategies. But as time passed, we started sharing more personal stories. She was a listener, someone who seemed genuinely interested in my life. Our relationship grew deeper over the months. We talked about everything: our hopes, our fears, and our dreams. She was kind, understanding, and had a way of making me laugh that I hadn't experienced in years. Despite the 20-year age gap and the racial differences, there was an undeniable connection between us. I found myself looking forward to our chats more than anything else in my day. When she suggested meeting in person, I was hesitant, but her reassurance and our deepening bond convinced me to take the leap. Meeting her was a revelation. She was just as wonderful in person as she was online. We spent hours talking, laughing, and getting to know each other even better. The age gap and our different backgrounds didn't matter at all. We clicked in a way that I had never experienced before. It felt like finding a missing piece of myself. She brought joy and light into my life, something I desperately needed. As our relationship blossomed, I realized how much I had missed having someone to share my life with. She became my rock, supporting me through the lingering pain of my past and helping me to look forward to the future. Her old-fashioned values and belief in putting family first resonated deeply with me. We both believed that no matter how successful one is in their career, family should always come first. This shared belief laid a strong foundation for our relationship. The irony of marrying a Vietnamese woman, given that I lost my father in the Vietnam War, was not lost on me. It felt like life had come full circle in the most unexpected way. My father's sacrifice was a shadow over my life, but finding love with my wife brought a sense of peace and closure that I hadn't anticipated. We were expecting our first child, and the thought of becoming a father filled me with a renewed sense of purpose and joy. Cheating is a horrible experience, perhaps one of the worst betrayals one can go through. But it's important to remember that it's not the end of the world. Not all men or women are the same as your cheating spouse. The keys to moving forward are making time for yourself, seeking help, and finding yourself again. Take your time and remember that something better is out there looking for you too. You deserve happiness and love, and it's out there waiting for you. Suicide is never the answer. Giving up should not be an option. You are stronger than you think, and you can rebuild your life. The journey to a new life may not be easy and might require more strength than you ever thought you had, but it is possible. The pain of betrayal and heartbreak can transform into something new and beautiful. Life and love have a way of finding us, even in the darkest times. You just have to keep moving forward, one step at a time, and trust that better days are ahead. Keep your head up and never lose sight of your worth. Life has a way of surprising us, sometimes when we least expect it. My story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the pain and heartbreak, I found love and a new purpose.